And it's recording. Okay. Welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Boiler Up, Beer Down podcast. Riles 23 here with co-hosts. We have Habitual Boiler, we have Carrie and Audra. And tonight we have a very special guest for the fans of Purdue athletics and especially Purdue football. We have the father of one of the, in my opinion, best stories in college football this year. The father of Purdue breakout star running back Devin Mockobee. We are interviewing Conrad Mockobee.
Conrad, what's up?
How you doing?
So, first question I have for you is just kind of talk about the journey that Devin had this year from your perspective as a parent, where coming into the season, he's a walk-on, maybe third or fourth on the depth chart. And then by the end of it has the potential to be one of the few running backs in Purdue history to end up with 1,000 rushing yards this season. How has that been from your eyes as a parent?
Well, I mean, you baby step your goals. So like last year, we'll go back to senior year, right? Because the guy you're used to playing all the time, right? So you're used to being one of the guys, one of the boys, right? So last year was kind of a rough transition because you didn't even get to dress up for away games, right? So you really didn't feel like you were a part of anything. So the goal this year was make travel squad, right? Get on the plane, try and make special teams, try and get somewhere to where you're traveling with the other numbers to feel like you're not sitting in your apartment or wherever while your team's on TV playing, And so that truly was the goal for him to get there, because I believe he's always had confidence in himself, and he's always played the same way. You'll probably hear that 1,000 times if you talk to anybody from back here. But it was just that process of what people believed was a Big Ten back or what they thought they could get accomplished, right? And so what you try to build in him is, son, you get one carry, that's an official stat. Everything else is what people make of it, is what they think a Big Ten back is. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it was unfortunate that the injuries took place because, of course, I get to hear the little rumors and see some things of like, your summer, spring, and fall ball sessions, So I knew he was doing good last year too, but I know he was doing good. But it still come down to here you got a kid that's a walk on, and you got investments along with guys who are mature, So that was tough, and you don't want anybody to have injuries, but at all. When you talk about it's a rough game, but like he always knew he had to kind of stay ready because if your number's called and you go out there and you lay an egg, that number 4 spot becomes probably number 6.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's been really fun, and I think Devin, if you've watched him score or play, you'll see that he really is not much of a celebration cat, because that's by design to where, you've always felt like you can mentally cripple your opponent by that whole that's all day concept. They'll start pulling up on trying to chase you and things like that because you're just defeating them mentally. So what stood out to me was the Indiana State touchdown, right? Because that was a team that we went there for junior day, had the jersey on, all the pictures and all those things. And we talked to the running backs coach. And they were like, well, we just need you to be a little bigger. Then they offered another running back while we was there, So it was like, so this was like, oh, son, I sure hope you get a chance to play, Yeah. And but if you really just play that back and you see his touchdown and you see that emotion, that's a year's worth of stored up emotion on that, where just getting that out of his system. But watching his story take place, he's really leading a stars aligned life, right? It's like, man, who would have thought? Because he was nicknamed Mock Train in high school. Who would have thought you end up at a place that has a locomotive as as one of your symbols, right? He got lucky, and his favorite team was Dallas Cowboys. He ended up playing in Dallas Cowboy Stadium in a game on his 18th birthday. So it's like things just keep aligning for him, and so this is perfect for him right now. I told you I was long-winded.
No, that's really great, actually. As a parent watching him go through like the recruiting process and, you know, seeing all these different coaches talk to him and him committing to the Naval Academy and then really like coming out and saying, nope, I'm going to go to Purdue. I'm going to earn my keep. Like, how does that make you feel as a parent when he does that?
Well, he's lucky because he'll be probably the first to tell you he had his own private recruitment firm, and myself and my brothers. So a lot of his recruitment was done through his family. You know, we have a 9-person text that we all are a part of that we, you know, constantly. And if you ever read a Tom Dienhart's article on, you know, Devin, it's pretty factual, you know, on how we would track everything from if you had, you know, 235 followers, let's see what we can do here. If we had, you know, how many coaches, how many times we set something out. And so I personally was like, well, you know, if you want to make it there, we got to go play against like-minded kids. So the goal was we'll hit these streets and we'll hit Tennessee, Notre Dame, Kentucky, Purdue. And so, you know, you can't stay around here and expect, you know, everybody's going to pat you on the back because you might be the man here, right? But if you go and let's say Tennessee or a Notre Dame Sunday night showcase where you got 30 other coaches hanging around, those one-on-ones become very important, you know. And so you had to get noticed without anybody knowing who you were. They just had a sticker on your helmet or just a highlight of paper and go, yeah, we think about that kid, you know. And so that started his recruitment process. You know, that digital footprint was the biggest part through COVID, right? Because he ended up getting 9 offers, and none of those schools came through Boonville, right? So it was about all the work you could do, working with the, you know, this here is just another form of media that helps Devin. Mm-hmm. You know, so like so we jump at these opportunities to go, yeah, sure, because you can stalemate a lot of things, like, you know, him being known right now, right? You know, don't even think about the NIL stuff. If a kid's a dreamer, you could actually stalemate your combine numbers if your dreams to make the NFL, right? Because you become this, all your performance has to do is match your media, okay? And so far he's been able to do that. Look, you know, it's not like I have to make stuff up. You look at, okay, he comes in, most yards rushing as a freshman, right? Most yards in the game as a freshman. All Big Ten honorable mention, all American honorable mention. You know, pretty soon you start having to go. You just have to start marking names off as you know, through your path, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is the recruitment part still hasn't stopped because you're not looking at like who the current people are and who the players. If you're wanting to get to say your dream is playing on Sundays, it's a parent's job to help their child try and get as far as they think they can, right? Because when he was going to Navy, it was like you had these options of, man, you're going to be there 9 years, you're going to have a base rate of this, and then Purdue comes a calling. Well, traveling around after his sophomore year and all these travels, he knew that was an engineering school that he was kind of like, man, if I could go there, I'd go, right? And so remember that stars align thing I said. 2 weeks from showing up in Annapolis, you get a call, you know, the parents have to walk away and go, you know, it's just, we'll get you there. But it's meant to be if you decide to go. You know what I mean?
So I've actually got 2 questions, but I've never thought about that. You know, you do have that media machine now that's running behind you and could overtake you. Now you've got your expectations just keep getting higher and higher and higher, and that's certainly the case. And I'm sure Devin is somebody that, I mean, from what we've seen, is going to be able to keep up with that hype, and we're certainly excited to see the years ahead. But I'm going to back you up. Prior to high school, so I'm a father. I've got 2 boys in youth football, first grade, and it's pretty competitive football. I'm in Southeast Indiana. It's pretty competitive football down here. Actually, what age did Devin start playing football? And like, where's that competitive line as a youth football parent? You know, some of my biggest fears is like both of my boys are totally into football. You know, they have dreams to play high school football. They'd love to play beyond that if possible. At this age, they're thinking that. When is too much though? You know, when do you start fearing about burning a kid out? You know, playing too much of one sport.
Well, I was lucky enough to have a mother that believed in letting us play. We didn't have a lot of money, but play as much as you can because everything has a window, right? And so you mentioned youth football. I was lucky enough to have a high school coach grab myself and a few other guys. So I actually was like the president of our youth league for a number of years too. And so what we did was, you say you got a first grader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, back when we started our league was like third grade on up to sixth, right?
Sure.
First thing we did was we started a flag league, fully dressed, fully to get kids. So kids like Devin had a full 12 years of football.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Versus coming in and, and we wanted to go full weight. You didn't want to penalize a kid for being aggressive, but you wanted the kid not to panic. You put the helmet on some of those little kids, and they'll be, oh, you know what I'm saying? So you wanted them to understand like this. Now, back then, if you're playing in first grade now, I don't know what your soccer leagues were, but our soccer leagues were starting at 4, right? So Devin actually played soccer for the first couple of years, but he also raced BMX bicycles because like our family's into a lot of sports, and so he actually raced BMX bicycles, played soccer, basketball, you name it. But when it got to high school is when you had to monitor the too much thing, right?
Yeah.
Because his body wasn't burning enough, and when he came into high school, he weighed 141. So we put a plan in place where, like, okay, if you want to play in college, son, you need to be 200 pounds, regardless if you're going to be a DB or a running back. So you had to go from 141 to 170 by your sophomore year, 185 your junior year, 200 your last year. And he pretty much met all those measures. But in that, you had to sacrifice some things, right? Because, you start figuring out, knee and backs start feeling that extra weight. So he may have to stop playing basketball his junior year to kind of, okay, you're going to do track, but we'll not play basketball because that pounding of the floor started adding up with that extra you're putting on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he COVID was the biggest killer, right? Because
I bet
that when that hit, there was no sports, right? They dropped off at track and you had nothing. And so it's like, man, what are we going to do? So we emptied out the garage and said, we got to put a home gym in. So that's what we did. We ran around to anybody's, met some places that actually sold like at warehouses and grabbed things and said, this is going to be what you do, son. But any young kid, because I believe in not just helping like Devin, but we're trying to help other kids get recruited because we see how our area gets overlooked. My advice is video and photos, no matter where you're at, what grade you're in, video, because our biggest thing in recruitment was, I could tell you I was at that Sunday night showcase, right? But I can show you a 2-minute 19 video that Twitter let me put on. You follow what I'm saying? And the best advice I was ever given, because we've paid out at different places before. I got other, my oldest daughter was a D1 track athlete and whatnot. But you could do so much as a parent to help your kids, right? Don't rely on the system. Don't rely when that season comes in and go, oh, I sure hope we get those stats or this and that. You've got to do it all the time. I mean, really all the time. Like this to me is just another form of work, to get something done. But I think kids have to have, if you got 2 kids that are same athletes, right? If they're the same exact height, weight, they bench the same 40, you've got to have something that separates you and that athlete, right? So that's where your media comes into place. And that goes back to what I tell you. I might be able to tell you something, but this other guy, he's going to be able to go, well, let me show you. I got some stills. I got some video. And
right.
Who do you think they're going to look at? They're going to go, well, I know you said you contested that guy in that one-on-one. Well, let me show you a video of somebody contesting somebody or something,
Receipts right here, right?
Yeah. And so, like, we're very into it to where, like, I was fortunate that the high school gave me a media pass, right, to get on the sideline and take pictures. And in middle school, what we would do, we would record from up by the press box, and I would cut DVDs for little CDs for kids, DVDs where you wanted to anybody that had them play, you gave them one after practice, right? And then other kids would be like, oh, Mr. Mockobee, why can't I have one? But it's not treating favorites. It's you want to have that want in other kids. If they want that video, then you want them to go out there and go. Just like in youth league, you got first graders, youth league. All you want the announcer to do is tackle by so and so, right? You want that name out on that, being broadcast out the speaker when a play's been made, and everybody in the stands going, "Oh, that's so great! That's my boy's name," right?
Absolutely.
So it's the same deal, just like right now. Here you're in college. Think about it. All this is a bigger microphone, bigger megaphone with anything you see, something that says Mockobee or Aiden O'Connell. I mean, that's all this is the same thing,
Well, I can tell you, your work definitely has worked, because I know when Devin started taking off this year, it was hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of tweets that I saw from Boonville folks that said, "Hey, we told you so. We told you. We knew. We knew he had this in him. We saw it. We saw it for years." And so there was a lot of people on the mock train. It appears.
Oh, it worked out. I mean, like I said, he's living a very stars aligned life right now. It's like stay healthy, get your grades, and I think one of the first things, like when somebody sent me from Boonville during Devin's touchdown, and they just simply 2 words, they said God's plan, because my social media is like a living scrapbook. You call it whatever you want. If you went through, I actually have a road to recruitment album on it, to where, like, if somebody was, how do they do that? So where they can kind of just go and look and try and find things that work for them, But yeah, it's this here part is, in my mind, just another part of his story to hopefully, be one of the, okay, you've heard him in the interview talk about, I want that. Nobody really knows how bad he would love to hit that 1,000, right? Just because you're joining 6 other running backs. And I don't know, the last time I looked, what was it, 264 or 364 guys that actually touched the ball for BUBD that's moved it a yard or better, right?
Exactly.
You become one of 7.
Right.
You see how you're already separating yourself away, because if somebody was going to go through and look at things, they go, man, that's, look at what they did to David Bell, right? He wasn't that fast. But look what he done to these DBs, right? And look at all the yards and look at all the catches. So eventually those statistics have to take over of what people may think needs to be successful. You see what I'm saying? And so, all I hope is that he just keeps on this ride, and stays healthy. And but now this here is a big part of how kids make it. You guys are a big part of how kids make it. I mean, everybody, it's a village. If somebody wants to be a professional, if somebody wants to just be great, it takes a village. I mean, it takes more than being good. There's professional players in every big city on grass yards. They just did not get this exposure to get where they want to be.
We absolutely know that we're a big part of Devin's success. We like to hear that.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, you guys have a forum. Well, you have 11,000 followers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the networking is the biggest thing that kids in recruitment can do, and it's amazing how parents will get mad at coaches, parents will get mad at schools over huddle, but they have the tools to do it all. They really do. I worked with, like, if you were recording a game on a Friday night, I may get with that sports commentator, say, hey, can you send me your sideline video if you've got stuff with Devin? And then what I did was I used iMovie, boom, get an app on my phone, iMovie. Okay, let's take all those sideline videos. Now let's make a collaboration video of everything sideline. And that's exactly what college coaches seen versus your huddle video from way up. You're depending on somebody else's equipment. You don't know if they look like ants out there or not. You see what I mean? That's just being proactive and trying to help your kid get the best view, And so,
Carrie, I'll say the rest of what I got for later. I'll yield my time here.
Okay. My question was, it was super reassuring for everyone, all the Purdue fans, the second that Devin tweeted that, that little tweet where he kind of alluded to the fact that he was staying at Purdue after Brown left. So that was huge.
Yeah.
What was going through Devin's mind, your mind, everybody's mind when that happened?
I'm trying to catch you up on how we operate. You don't think that stuff's planned? You don't see people decommit. You don't see coaches. If you have coaches looking, they got to know who's still there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the first text I see Devin is, "Hey, we need to break the internet today," right?
I love it.
He came up with a different one. I was just gonna say, "Hey, look, man, I know a lot of these guys out here just eating it up. Anytime somebody a recruit or something, they always want to throw something in comment." I thought, why not just put 3 simple words? I like trains. You see what I mean? And he did the toot thing, and then the movie deal with the Leonardo. I thought that was awesome, because we were both thinking the same thing when I tweeted him and I texted him saying, "Hey man, we need to do something because you got too many guys decommitting, and you got coaches out here on the fence on who's left. They might have all kind of guys leaving, right? And so you have to make sure that hey man, I'm not going nowhere." You've already worked too hard to get to. You can't call something your dream school in your commitment page, right? Because that makes you a liar. If you were going to walk away from what you call your dream school, that makes you a liar. You follow what I'm saying? So you look at it. You have different coaches in youth league, middle school, high school, and now college, right? So you can't sit here and go. You don't follow people. You learn to love the game you play. Because people come and go, whether they get sick or they get done or get more pay or whatever. But if you have a kid that's going to just follow a person, say everybody here makes the NFL. Do you get to pick your coach? you see what I'm saying? I mean, if your dream is to make it to the NFL, do you get to pick your coach? Are you gonna just sit there and go, man, I hope that phone rings? Right? I mean, think about it. There's no different in your approach. If you love what you're playing, you can't worry about you're going to want to, just like the system. Who knows what Coach Walter's system is with the OC coming in? It won't matter if you can play football, you're going to be able to play football. You know what I mean? That's just how we look at it.
That was a pre-planned bat signal. That's amazing.
I mean, that's a no lie. I can send you the text later. That's great. That's the first words I said was, "Do you want to break the internet today?" And I think it's up to what? I think it went up. First I was like, "Oh, you'll probably get 150 shares, maybe 500-600 likes. It'd be all right." Then it just like within 30 minutes it was there. I was like, "Oh man, this is good."
It was so needed because everybody was just so questioning and just feeling down. And then just to see somebody who really just pulled the team together so much this year, like Devin did, for him to just step up and do that, I think just made everybody feel so good.
Well, I mean, like I said, it was more about watching guys walk away into the unknown when, like, that's where you find out people committed to a school or to people, right? Because I go, man, I get it why you're decommitting, but because you got to do things for 40 and not 4, right? So, if you want to come in here and throw your hat at a place that because like for Devin, engineer was good because he still had Rolls Home and he still had other places that were strong engineering schools, right? So why would you walk away from that into the unknown? I mean. But I get all those other guys hadn't stepped on campus yet. But you had to be more concerned about your current players and any of those coaches that were even entertaining looking at Purdue. You wanted them to be able to go, whew, okay, I can at least this kid has stats. I can kind of look at other things if I get the job. I mean, case in point, what's the first thing Coach Walters does when he walks into the team room?
Yep.
Because he played against Devin played against his defense. Out averaged what that team has given up as a rushing defense. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So if you let those numbers speak for, you didn't have to beg for a scholarship. I mean, you let your numbers speak to where, man, I used to tell people in high school and all that to where, everybody gives out awards, right? Every school you go to has awards at the banquet, right? And if you could go up there and be that athlete that's lucky and fortunate enough to get an award, you've got to have kids that want to beat those awards. That's why, like, for Devin, there were several measures. Okay, sophomore year, you got to play 5 positions. Your job was to try and score in every one of those positions. And before he graduated high school, he scored every way you could score, whether it be a fumble recovery, interception, catching the ball, running the ball, kick return, punt return. You see what I mean? You got to be able to help, but you let those numbers, those actions speak. I mean, COVID hit us. We were a 4-4 team, but here's Devin right now at RB1 in a Power 5 school. So if you say those things, they have to sink in with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I told you I had to get Gab.
We can sit here and talk all night if you want to. I think we got a couple more for you.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
First of all, so what's your? I think I know your answer on this, considering one of the first things he did. What's your impression? Your impressions now on Coach Walters after a week now?
Here's my impressions: is that I like more what he said about how he thought he was as a defensive guy, right? Saying that he felt like he was number one. He doesn't even have a name for his defense. That confidence is what's going to spill over to the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, that there is somebody, and he doesn't have to brag, right? Because it's somewhere on a sheet of paper. It's going to say number 1 or 2 defense in the nation at one time, right? So it's those are what become facts. And so I thought, and that's why I said, here's a guy who designed, off season. He's designing his concept, right? He's going through his season. His team is keeping people at this and that average. And then he plays Purdue, right? And so then you have the chess match of this kid's a walk-on and he's put 106 up on me. How is this possible? Because I've got my scheme down. And so I felt like when he offered the scholarship, that was more like just a pat on the back. Devin said, "Job well done, man." You know what I mean? Because he knows what kind of work he puts in, working to get his team efficient, right? And so I think Purdue is going to be just fine. I think the fact that they've got probably one of the youngest staffs now, right? Average age probably 35. I think that's going to correlate to you're going to see those kids, want to play with that swagger. You're going to see those kids kind of have that. And I think it's going to work recruitment wise on like you said, being able to relate to somebody and be like, yeah, I'll play for this guy,
Yeah.
But they're going to have to weather the storm because obviously it's still going that way. I just saw where we had another guy hit the portal, right? So
I think we've lost a couple defensive linemen. Well, not portal. That's all right. I mean, that's the business, right?
Hey, here's how I look at it. Like I said, I don't like injuries, but if we didn't have 2 guys go down in front of Devin would still be holding his helmet on the sideline. So there's still other Devins on that team. You following me?
Yep. Audrey, did you have something?
Yep. One last thing for you. You said Devin's been mock trained since high school, but I heard a lot of crazy legs this year, so I want to know where that came from.
Well, see, if you go talk to family, you're never gonna hear that out of us, because like that was probably the BTN announcer, the one game, and it might have been the Nebraska game, right? That he called him crazy legs, and then that just like wildfire, right? But here's why we've worked on Brandon for quite a while. Remember, I said we're pretty involved, and so we've worked. If you hashtag mock train, you're gonna find Devin. I don't care if you go do it on Google or any of your social medias, you're gonna find it. And so crazy legs, and I think I explained this best on the media when somebody was asking. I said you can be called crazy legs in all kind of sports, right? Karate, swimming, biking. You can have crazy. If somebody's dominant, they're going to call them crazy legs, and then you're going to jump in that big ocean. I think I just read what crazy legs Hirsch, right? So do you want to be in that ocean, or do you want to stand in your own puddle and have your own identity when somebody says mock train and they understand that's part of who you are because it's your last name. It ties you directly to your family. Right? No matter where you go, it ties you to where you're from. You see what I mean? So the crazy legs, hey, if people want to do it, they're still talking about Devin, that's fine. But in my mind, that's just a style. And what I've tried to get across to people is it's a mentality. To have a kid give up going to Navy, right? Because it was a base pay of $103,000 at that time, right? And all I asked him was, "You got confidence in your ability?" And he's like, "Yep." I said, "You got to live it." But that's a mentality. That has nothing to do with any being on the field playing, right? The whole toot thing. That's a mentality. There was no games being played besides letting people know here that where you're going to be and what you're about. And so it's more of a mentality thing. I mean, the Crazy Legs I see it. It's fine. It's fun. But I go back to the one run against Nebraska where he hits a kid running downhill. Ask that guy if he remembers Crazy Legs or if he remembers Mock Train, because he's going to say he got touched by. He's going to say that kid runs 15 pounds heavier than he looks. You know what I mean? But it's more about the mentality of, I'm not going to let you stop me, than I don't want to get tackled. I mean, Devin's luckily he's got good lateral movement without losing speed. I mean, because if you put him in a straight line, he's not going to be the fastest guy. But the mentality is what is separate. If somebody wanted to really dig in and go, well, what makes Devin tick? It's a mentality. And he probably gets it from me and the other people around him, right? Because like we can keep you up walking and talking with an artificial pumper, right? So when people go, man, that kid plays with heart. Remember, you could be kept alive on an artificial pumper. How many artificial brains you heard about? You know what I mean? So it's the mentality that you want out of a person on how they see stuff. And and that goes back to, and like I said, I respect Coach Brown and all those guys, but it was funny when I kept hearing, well, we really wanted to see him against other people to know what kind of back he was. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's judging with these. That's not really seeing what a person thinks or how they view themselves. And right now, Devin's kind of, you can call it what you want. They're going to say, man, he's lanky. I think the funnest thing I heard was he was all elbows and knees. Now that one got us laughing. That was pretty good. I like that one. But no, the Crazy Legs is fine, but he will always be Mock Train to everybody back in Boonville. Because
Mock Train it is.
Well, I'm just saying that's just it's just fitting. It's more of a mindset of not letting yourself, even a train takes so long before it has to stop. You know what I mean? If they want to slow down. So he still needs to just keep going. When they packed him off the field at IU, right? And he was down a little bit, went to tent, got on the exercise bike. Next thing you know, I saw him put his helmet on. I thought, good for you, bud. Good for you. You know what I mean? Because he could have easily said, man, I better just, but he didn't want that. He was still chasing. He ended up, 99 yards, right? It meant something to him to be that guy that's, I'm gonna get 100 yards every game, right? Because he, the big knock was, that was ISU. You got 78. Wait till we play Big Ten schedule. Every 100-yard games come against what? Big Ten opponents. So like I said, you have to knock off the naysayers and do things to where it speaks for itself.
That's awesome.
And I'm gonna say it again. I got to get the gab. I told you.
This is probably.
I was going to say, I think his Mock Train fit best where you're talking takes a little bit to slow down. Basically the run to ice it against Minnesota, where I think the guy hit him at roughly the 25, and he didn't tackle. He wasn't down until within the 4. Once he may not have the top 5 percentile speed, but once he's at his max, you're not going to tackle him by his arms. Like, you're going to have to be able to get low and cut him. And that was a run where it's like, if he gets, trying to kill clock, get 5 or 10 yards, like, keep it going. And he breaks out a 66-yard run with 25 of it after first contact.
Well, it's funny you brought that right up, because we're his biggest critics too, biggest fans, biggest critics, whatever you want to call it. But so of course we watch it and we see the flaws, right? And it's like, okay, dude, you're in track. What's the biggest thing they tell you about track and cutting your own momentum? What do? Don't swing your head. Don't do this. And if you notice on that run, he checks number 5 out coming, right? And if he would have just focused and stayed in his zone, he would have made it a lot harder on that old boy catching him. But I get it. He wanted to stiff arm and get separation. But I thought, you got out your form, man. I mean, like I said, that's how we look at it. But it was a good ride.
I looked at it as a pretty damn good.
It was a good ride. Like I said, but as you know, people back here will say, man, we were seeing that every Friday night most of the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so you probably saw those kind of tweets like, that's not new to us,
Yeah. So, Conrad, are you and the fam headed to Orlando in a couple weeks?
Well, he's got two families because I'm divorced and remarried and whatnot. So his mom and them will go, and like I said, we have at least 9 to 12 people when we roll, and so I'm one of those guys, and Devin understands it. The same people that used to watch you go out of town, they go watch BMX racing. The same people that go to them soccer games or wherever and travel basketball. I'm not going to ask them to have a total investment of $2,000 to go watch a game.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? We will still have that same watching that run or watching this all together versus me taking advantage of being Devin's dad and I get the tickets for myself and go. That's not how we operate. That's not how he got there. You know what I mean? And so he'll know every play because one time or another after that game we'll be like, hey man, this one here. Hey man, So, but it's fine. I mean, it's fine.
It's such an incredible storybook story that, and the awesome thing is that it's far from over. So, I think I speak on behalf of all Purdue fans out there. We're super glad that Devin's on our team and not somebody else's, and it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him this season and grow in front of us. And so, thanks for your contribution to that. And we truly appreciate you coming on here with us tonight.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I had a bunch of fun. Like I said, you get me talking about sports, I'm the worst person to go into a store with. And somebody goes, aren't you Devin's dad? Because the rest of the people with me walk off. They're like, we'll come back and get you when you're done, right? But no, but it goes back to this is where he wanted to be. And so you got to make it the best experience possible because everything has a window, And so right now I feel like, he's got to stay healthy. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Staying healthy, get your books. But what better thing could he tell his kids about? You see what I mean? When he's old and has kids, what better thing can he can pull up anywhere digital and see posters of himself, running, and his kids will see that. People he hadn't even thought about will see what he done when he was in college, And so that was big back here because we used to have a hardback book that somebody put out years ago called Local Legends, right? And so my daughter, her mother-in-law is in that book. So like I said, everything around us was built around athletics in Hawaii. And so here in our local basketball gym, you walk in there and there's achievements of pictures of teams and individuals, whether it be all conference or whatever, right? And so you tell your kids, look, do something that gets on that wall in those gymnasiums because the wins and losses have taken care of themselves by you doing it. But it's more about you coming back in. And if your kid's lucky enough to go to the same school, they're going to see you when you were in high school, right? They're going to get to look at a board or a picture of a team and see their face, basically, and I've been fortunate enough to do that. I was fortunate enough to get in the Hall of Fame. I think both my kids will be in the Hall of Fame back here. I mean, that is just fun because people talk tradition and all those other things. But if you don't start it in your own home,
how are you going to get anywhere
else?
Who
are you doing it for? I mean, who are you doing it for? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you can't have your kids look at something and go, man, I want that. My daughter's 12. She wants to play football, right? But I was like, you can't play football because that time's out. I said, but the biggest joy I get is watching her watch him on TV because you want that to be the norm, right? You want that, I think I heard a comedian put it the best. I was always on drugs, right? Well, she was on drugs too because she was drugged at everything that her older siblings did. And they got to do it on a big level, right? My daughter, like I said, ran track. So she would go to either Purdue or Notre Dame and get to watch all the fast kids, And and now you got Devin playing football. If that becomes her norm, then she should want that same success. We'll go tell our kids, hey, you can be president if you put mind to it, right? But we won't go tell them there's no difference between you and them on that TV screen.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You'll tell your kids they can be president, which is this. That's the mind. You put your mind to it, you can be president. Then what? Because trust me, when Devin first went to Purdue, even there was doubters back here. It was all about, everybody there was Devin in high school. But that's a two-lane street, which means everybody there playing on that field was you, son. No better, no worse. You understand what I mean? That means you can be on that field too because everybody there was you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's all about how somebody's perspective stays. So.
Well, make us a deal. About this time next year, when Purdue's getting ready for the Rose Bowl or the college football playoffs, come back on with us and let's do this again.
Oh, that's no problem. Our job now is to keep working on recruiting on other athletes that we can work on, because that's, of course, the school and all these other people, they have their limitations, but every dad, every parent, if they want to help their kid, then everybody has a social media. I mean, it's kind of like contacting schools if you want your kid to play there. All they can do is either ignore it or say no, but it's your own fault if you don't try.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that kids decide to want to go play Purdue because they want to see what's going on there, right? It puts everybody at square one, right? New staff, new coach staff. Well, why would you look at going, I don't want to go because I'm going to be buried behind so-so. Then you have no excuse now. It's new eyes across the board, right? So everybody coming in, it's just like going to those camps. There's no names. Everybody's still trying to learn who they are. It's prime time to jump into Purdue early and get in starting with all the other guys. So that's just how we look at it. But I sure hope I can see you next year and we'll be going to the big dance on that one,
We sure do too.
Yeah.
Conrad, you're awesome. Thanks so much. We'll yield you your time back for the night. And hey, let's see them Boilers kick some butt here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Hey, if they all come out healthy, that's the main part. And then they can start fresh again.
Absolutely.
You all take care, okay?
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, Conrad.
All right.
Thanks.
Guys, we have been absolutely blessed with our guests the last few shows. So Conrad was awesome. And I don't know that there's anything we need to follow that up with.
I
Nope.
don't think we could have
That's
tried.
You guys got anything? Audrey, you're going to Orlando. You're going to the Citrus Bowl.
I am. Yep.
Hopefully, maybe we can get you some media passes while you're there.
And let's get it right. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Oh, the Jesus.
You can't forget everything and their mother has a sponsor. So
I know the line on that game has grown tremendously over the
last I looked was 14 even, and I'm sure it's probably
opening or something.
Gone even farther.
Well, we've seen weird things happen. You guys got anything else for tonight?
I'm good.
Again, shout out to Conrad Mockobee. He was a great guest. Can't wait to have him back on here. On behalf of Riles, Audra, Carrie, and myself, this is Boiler Up, Beer Down, and we'll catch you next time. Go Boilers.